We saw this just recently in the fire that happened, tragic fire that happened in the Swiss Alps. Well, I think the part of the answer to your question is in the last part of what you said. The reason why this is the right time is because things are moving faster than they ever have before in the construction arena. And so that's why it's important that everybody in this region and even around the world think about how they're doing codes and standards. With respect to NFPA codes and standards, one of the reasons why we see very wide use of what we do is because our codes and standards are updated every 3 to 5 years. So that means we are constantly in a cycle of what's the latest research that's going on, what are the latest problems to be solved, and we're updating our codes and standards to do that. We've been to areas of the globe where people are sometimes 15, 20 years out of date with the standards that they're using. So we're well positioned right now to help people take advantage of that fast-moving environment through codes and standards that are up to date. In the UAE and in Saudi Arabia, they are moving rapidly to be able to update their codes and standards. And a lot of those are NFPA ones that they're utilizing to do that. The thing that I can say about both of those regions, that's the driver, is there's a commitment to safety. And the UAE is a great example of that, where the folks that are involved at whether it's at the civil defense levels or at the ministry levels, have a commitment that they have said they want to make sure their citizens and property are safe. That's what's leading to the faster updating and being able to move forward. So without that commitment, this couldn't move at all. We're working on a new standard right now called NFPA 800, the Battery Safety Code. And that is driven by exactly what you mentioned, the widespread use of lithium-ion batteries and other batteries, whether it's in electric vehicles or whether it's in other forms of electric transportation that we're seeing, like scooters and motorbikes. So we're developing standards pretty rapidly, and we're moving that standard into a fast-track process to take advantage of those. So your question was, are these things happening fast enough? I think what's important is that we move fast, but we also take advantage of the expertise that's around us. And one of the things that we do when we do a standard, we bring people together around a table that have that expertise. And it does take time to be able to do that, but we're constantly looking at how does that become more efficient. Are people moving fast enough to be able to utilize those codes and standards? We're seeing a real trend of two things now. One, there's the governmental use of the particular code or standard that's involved. And I think in areas, particularly in the Gulf region, I think that commitment I talked about earlier, that's moving more rapidly than it has been. We don't see that everywhere that's going on in the globe. Well, the phrase that we use that we are trying to educate even the public on right now is that safety doesn't happen by chance. Safety has to be intentional. And so if a person, one of the things that we say is that you're likely not more than 3 feet away from something that is impacted by an NFPA code and standard. So if you're standing in your area and doing cooking, there are codes and standards around that cooking equipment that you're utilizing. If you are plugging something into the wall, there are electrical codes that are used and applied to both what you are plugging in and what you are plugging into. If you're in a high-rise building where you live or where you might work, there are codes and standards that apply to things like smoke control, the fire alarm system, the sprinkler system. Your question is a really good one because we think people have really lost track that these things happen, yes, behind the scenes, but we're trying to raise the awareness with folks. The other thing I would encourage, since you talked about homeowners, people that are not professionals in this area, take some time to spend and learn about fire safety. It's important that people also take their own responsibility for their safety around things. We saw this just recently in the fire that happened, tragic fire that happened in the Swiss Alps, where one of the things evident out of that is that we have to do more education about what fire risk really looks like. So I think that's a key message for your audience, is being able to spend time and educate yourselves about fire safety.